Hello, and welcome to none other than Nigel. Buckle up and get ready. For a fun-filled podcast dedicated to informative and knowledgeable topics and conversations relevant to music, TV, movies, and books. With your host, none other than Nigel. Listen and learn from industry professionals, entrepreneurs, and multi-award-winning special guests as we delve deep into in-depth discussions, ranging from topics relevant to the wonderful world of entertainment, living life on life's terms, and simply having fun.
All right, now we're ready to roll. Well, today, my very special guest is someone who I consider a friend, family, Ivan Hampden Jr. And for those who don't know, Ivan Hampden was the late, great Luther Vandross's drummer, percussionist, producer, family, friend, songwriter, everything. The solid unit, the sound. He also played with multitude of top-tier musical acts like Eartha Kitt, Diana Ross, Roberta Flack, Ashford and Simpson. The list is endless. And even hip-hop pioneer Curtis Blow. It's no surprise that Mr. Ivan has 4 Grammy wins under his belt. And I want to make sure, make sure we're recording. And yes, musical, for his musical works. But what you may not know is that Ivan also has taught music at local colleges and universities for over a decade. And in 2014, he established Hampton Music Institute. And I don't want to tell you, and that's based in Clayton, North Carolina. And you teach. Tell us what you teach in the school and how, someone who wants, because now it's virtually, so you can be anywhere in the world.
Yes, anywhere in the world.
And sign up and learn from the best.
Yes, so I'm teaching people all around the country. I teach drumming, basic to advanced skills, piano, music theory, music production, songwriting, world percussion, hand drumming. Pretty much right in there. I can teach basic, guitar, beginner's guitar, and electric bass as well.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. And, after spending decades touring and recording and composing, it seems inevitable, but I know that, from speaking to you before, that teaching is in your blood. And
yes.
It's the seasoning that makes up Ivan. The man with the flag.
It's just a natural thing, once Luther went down, I went through my own personal health issue, and I started teaching, almost like as therapy for me, and realized, oh wow, I'm not bad at this. I can do this, and it's grown from there.
Beautiful. So you did have, you're better, much better now.
Oh yeah. Yes, that
Good.
was 2004, the year after Luther had his stroke.
Okay. Yeah, and it's 2023, and we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of Luther live at Radio City Music Hall. And that had to be amazing.
It was amazing, but what's really ironic and strange about it is that was the last live performance with the full band.
That's right, on drums.
At Radio City. So it was documented. it, so strange, but it was documented with, the singers, the band, Luther, and, he was adding on dates, that we were supposed to start. And then, the misfortune of his stroke
happened.
Just stopped everything. We were all just crushed.
It was a magical. I mean, you can, and I can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel it. I can definitely hear you on Never Too Much. The power of his deep, just black chocolate velvety, ear-pleasing vocals from the very first note on Power of Love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it moves me, and it sets the tone. It actually sets the barometer for that evening to very, very, very high heights.
Yeah.
The temperature is really on fire for that evening. And what was some of your, I guess, most memorable moments of the evening?
Well, let me just go back one step. We did that every night. Luther did that every night.
Wow.
And if he did not feel good, if his voice was, he had no qualms about canceling and rebooking the show. And we've done that and gone back to cities to do the show because he was so concerned with giving his audience his very best every time. So if, I remember maybe 2 times in 15, 16 years that he actually said, no, I can't go on. I'm not going to do this to my audience. That was so important to him.
Wow.
So no, we did that show that got documented. We did that every night.
Every night. It was flawless.
Every night. That's every night. And he kept the bar high. And if you couldn't execute at that level, he would seek somebody else to in a second, so kept you way up here,
Kept you on your you coming
every day.
Don't
every
even
time.
don't step on the stage.
That's right. So some of my memories of that, we were still in the middle of recording the Dance with My Father album. So, as I know I have a song on there that I wrote with Luther called They Said You Needed Me. So we would be at the rehearsals and getting ready for Radio City, and the work that I had to do on the record was done, but he would bring in rough mixes to the rehearsal and say, hey y'all, let's take a break. And then he would play me the mixes, man, and I'd go, oh, this is gonna be so great, And he would just play a couple of tunes off the record that was coming out. And so that was always fun, just to share that creativity with him, The other thing I remember too is for Love Won't Let Me Wait.
You agree? I think this is one of the most romantic songs I've ever heard.
Really searching for a sax player that could get close to.
This is Arturo tapping.
What the record was, So I recommended Arturo Tappin, who I was working with in Roberta's band. When I called Arturo, he says, oh man, I used to play that solo all the time. I used to do that, so I got him together with Nat, and Nat was like, thank you, man. Thank you so much.
That's what I'm
because
talking about.
Luther was so particular about, what Kirk Whalen played on the record, on the original recording. And Arturo's excellent, outrageous musician, man, And he was just, thrilled to come and do it. Nat was getting ready to steal him from Roberta if we were going further on tour. He already started talking about it. Oh man, he could play keyboards too? Oh man, I'm getting ready to steal him. So yeah, no, it was, it was good. And the other thing too was, Radio City, that's my hometown.
Yeah, New York City, the Big Apple, baby.
City. So, I was already living in North Carolina, but being in New York, family and friends and people coming to the show, and it was just a lot of love. So
yeah, I noticed.
It was a really special week. It was like 4 shows we did.
Yeah, I noticed when he introduced you, he said by way of North Carolina. I didn't know I thought you had moved to North Carolina after he passed. I didn't know you were down there before.
Yeah, no, he didn't. He wasn't worried about where we were.
Okay,
like,
so
hey,
you had left New York early.
Well, late 2001.
Okay.
I had gotten out of New York
before 9/11.
Just before. I was kind of in both places. I had an apartment in Brooklyn, and I was down here as well. So I was going back and forth. Mm-hmm. So 9/11 happened, and I happened to be in North Carolina. Like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I was there by then. So he was flying me back and forth. So was Roberta Flack. So Roberta would call and say, "Hey, come on, I need you to come up. Let's do some rehearsals. I got some gigs." So it would be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's a perfectionist, and it shows. I mean, that live album, because I've listened to it now, and it's like the recordings, and even better, in some instances, he it's like, it's the magic. Yeah. It's the magic, the man.
Yeah.
It's Luther, honey. Late, great Luther Vandross. I mean,
he was a unique artist, man. His sound, his style, his vocal abilities, and Luther was amazing. He knew everything about every part of what his stage was happening. He knew about the lights, he knew about the sound, he knew about the chords, the music. He could turn around and he was on top of the costumes, the choreography,
the harmonious vocals, the vocals,
the music, all of it. That was his specialty, but he was so well versed in the entire package. That's why his show was always so flawless.
I believe that's how you should be. I don't think a lot of people maybe not, but I think that when you stand the test of time, we as the supporters, we recognize it. Like I said,
he knew that. He was aware of that.
He's upper tier. He's not, and then a lot of people don't understand. More and more people know now, but I guess back then, without social media, we didn't know that he had been, working so much before this. So he's skilled. He's and then all the jingles and things and the commercials that we used to hear, that's him. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know that. And then for me, like I told you before, I was an avid Chic fan. I have every Chic album. I know every song back and forth, up and down, all around, and then even the spinoffs. And then when they took on Sister Sledge, all of the projects that they did with Sister Sledge, I think it was 2 albums. And then when I met Sister Sledge and interviewed them and spoke to Kathy, she told me about this guy named Luther was a background singer, and then he blew up, and I'm like, oh, is that really? And like I told you, it wasn't until recent, on Netflix when I watched the Niles Rogers documentary.
Yeah.
How much Luther was, a part of that whole Chic organization. It was him.
Well,
the vocals,
Niles, will tell anybody, and you know, he said it to me in my presence and other people. Luther taught him how to arrange background.
Yeah.
He called Luther and said, "Hey man, you know, I'm doing this record. Would you do, you know?" And that's, yeah.
So now when I listen, because I still have that music, now when I listen after learning this, I hear him.
Oh yeah.
I hear him all through it. And then when I go back and listen to the Sister Sledge, I hear him there. Now I knew he was with We Are Family. I knew he was with Shaka on the Clouds album.
Right.
So I heard him there. But to know that he was in my ear all the time, influencing me. That's amazing. It's like a big brother.
So,
you know?
So, you know, he was
gifted.
He was a first call singer, a background singer in New York. He was, you know, it was, you know, him, Patty Austin, you know, there was this list, you know, and he was in that group, the A-team of New York recording singers, you know, Yolanda McCullough, Vivian Cherry, you know. There was just a whole list of those singers, many, you know, that I know and love and worked with, you know.
And wow. And you were one of the drummers too. They called you too.
Oh yeah. I worked my way into a good situation, you know, where I was getting called frequently, so it was good, you know, doing jingles and records, you know, Diana Ross, you know, a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it says that the actual album was released in 2003, October 14th, live Radio City Music Hall. 2 months before his before he was hospitalized. Were there any challenges preparing for this show, or did they all come after?
No, I mean, you know, like I said, you know.
Well, you all knew it, so it's like we
were on tour.
Okay.
So this was like the wind down of the tour, and that week we did Radio City was Valentine's weekend.
Yeah.
It was that whole week, so he did 4 shows during Valentine's, and
at Radio City.
At Radio City, that was
so that wasn't a one night show.
That was 4 nights at Radio City.
Wow.
Right.
And so they must have recorded each night and then decided what they were going to
right, exactly,
what they were going to use. So there's probably more content.
There's plenty, you know. So what I love about the re-release, the 20th anniversary, and of course they did it for Valentine's week. That's when they dropped it,
February 10th. Yeah.
But what's nice about it is, in the first one, you kind of got the songs, boom, 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 boom. In this one, you get his showmanship in between.
Yeah.
Talking, he tells his little jokes. Luther was funny.
Yeah.
Luther was hilarious. He would have you cracking up, you know?
Yeah.
So he was so good at that. And you get more of him, you know, not just this brilliant virtuoso singer. You get the person, you know, you get a little more of his personality, his little playing around and joking, and you know, so it was. They included more of that in
this 20th anniversary. Yeah, the Missy Elliott quote that went viral.
Yeah,
and she even tweeted. She that was her first time even knowing about it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she tweeted. She said, "Oh, she was in awe." Because it went viral. It was like because it was on my Twitter feed.
Wow.
And then I just heard it today. He was like, he said he had to stop and drink some water. He said, "I'm sweating." He said, "I need to drink water." Don't I look like a Denzel poster? I said, "Well, that sounds familiar." Then he said, "I like the way my stuff go, boom, 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 boom." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Keep your eyes on my dunk, and take my clothes and rock. I said, "Okay, go ahead, Luther."
Yeah, He paid attention to what was out there, man.
Yeah, he was the man. He was the man. And, I wish I could have met him. I wish I could have learned from him. I could have been all up, learning the vocals and all that,
I'll tell you, I learned so much from him on the stage, but for me, to be in the studio 6 days in a week for months with him, I learned just, major skills from him. And, Nat and Marcus Miller and, Skip Anderson, excuse me, being in the studio with them, they were so meticulous,
it's like the needle, the thread has to go into the needle.
Yeah.
Precisely. That's just how. Yeah.
And then
it's his ear. He has this ear. It's one of those ears.
You wouldn't believe his ear.
It's a gift, I'm telling you.
So we're in the studio. Ray Bardini, myself, Nat. I don't think Marcus was there. He might have been, but we're listening back, and I forget what song, but Luther said, "Stop! Did you hear that?" Everybody says, "What you talking about?" So I said, "Run it back." So we listened to this thing 3 or 4 times, and he said, "Stop right there," and he has us pull tracks down, and somewhere on one track was a pop, like a pop. And he heard it through the entire band, the singers and everything, strings, all of that. He heard this pop way in. Nobody heard it. The engineer, none of us. We're sitting there, dude. What kind of
ear?
Ears you walking around with?
Yeah, it's a gift.
He was that concentrated.
That's why I say he's the man. He's the magic. He's the mystical. I'm telling you, he was a musical deity walking on this planet for the time that he was here.
Yeah,
he was what is it? Not a vessel. What kind of a vessel? Yeah, but he was more of a he could yeah.
The man was a vocal genius, musical genius, man. And a lot of people pay so much attention to him as a singer and his vocals, but his writing and his producing and all those melodies and my God,
he
was just ridiculous. And he loved and this and that. I mean, you can go through them songs, man.
Yeah,
Bad Boy stuff, and I mean, I love this.
When he started singing on this particular project, when Here and Now came on, I was entranced, mesmerized. I was as enchanted. Those are the words that come to my mind with Here and Now. The whole world stops. In my world, it just stops because it's like it's time to stop and listen. Because he just demands it, and it's like.
So I'm glad you mentioned Here and Now. That's the very first Luther recording that I worked on.
Wow.
That's the first one. Nat called me up, "Hey man, get down here, bring some cymbals." And I left home and met them at the studio. So that's the very first thing I recorded on.
So tell me about that day. Because you were just hearing it for the first time when you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. By the time I got there, Nat was finishing, touching up the bridge, starting here, starting now, blah, blah, blah. So, Luther originally got that song from Dionne Warwick's son. David Elliott. So, and then he did additional writing. But,
Luther did additional writing, or David?
Yes. No. They gave Luther this tune, and Luther loved it. And then he had, he sat down with Nat, started putting it together. Of course, Marcus got in there and did his stuff on the bass. So they actually had drums programmed, but Nat had specifically things he wanted me to do with the cymbal work, certain rolls, certain accents and swells and different things. So I said, sure, man, no problem. So I came in with, with my cymbals and set up some stuff, and we talked it through, and I cut the cymbals work on it,
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I ever done in the studio on a Luther record.
Wow. And it became a huge hit.
Huge. Yeah, he got a Grammy. Yeah.
Isn't it something?
Yeah.
It's amazing, I tell you. The impact that his music had on, the listeners.
Oh yeah.
It's mind-boggling. It's life-changing.
Yes.
It's healing.
Yeah, it's sincere, it's deep, it's warm, it's intimate, and even when you get to his party stuff, it's just how it's delivered and how, and then how he would make those covers his, all those Burt Bacharach songs.
Right, who just recently passed. I saw
Right.
he just recently passed.
A week ago or so, yes.
Dionne Warwick.
Right.
Is this the one? Yeah. Okay. But that takes me to So Good to You. The track that you did.
Yes.
When I hear that track, I just feel like it sounds like you're crying. So it sounds like you miss. It's like Luther. It's like, and then you have him in the atmosphere, like the spirit.
He steps out.
Yeah, and that song it moves me because it is, I feel for you.
Yeah.
Not like Shaka Khan, but I do.
Right.
I feel your pain because it's major. I mean, and then so I love this. So am I on point with what I get from when I listen to So Good to You?
Kind of, yeah, I think so. When I started that project, I was asking cats in the band and my friends, hey man, if you got something. So the guitarist, Philip Hamilton, had this track. He says, hey man, I got this track with this little melody. So I grabbed it from him. And then Paulette McWilliams and I sat down and started putting together this, So Good to You, thing. So, Luther was here. He was alive. So, this was in between, just before he signed to J Records.
Okay.
So, Luther was home. He was not signed, and it was summer, and I called him. I said, hey, man, I'm doing these tunes. I wrote two songs with Nick Ashford from Ashford and Simpson. And the first thing I asked him was that song. It was All We Need Is Love. And Valerie is singing it. And I said, hey, I wrote this song with Nick. Would you come and do the background arrangements? And he said, man, Ivan, I'm sitting here bored as hell. Heck yeah. He was bored. He said, I'm sitting here watching the wrestling and the soaps and crap. I'm bored as heck. I'll come out. He said, look, but I can't sing no leads. I said, no, I need a background arrangements. And, we called all the girls, of course, Paulette, Brenda White King, India Davenport came, Cindy, all of
Isn't that from Brand New Heavies? No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh wow, you know her. Okay.
So we had all the divas come down and contribute, and Luther, he did the arrangement and expelled it out. We hung out all day. We had food and stuff and chilled out and cut these vocals, man. We had such a good time. So
you can tell. I can tell when you listen to this. It's so good to
so getting to So Good. After we did that session and it was done, I called him back. I said, I said, Lou, thank you so much, man. That meant so much. He said, well, Ivan, if you got some more,
Okay.
I had such a good time. I said, well, I got about 3 more. He says,
Okay.
oh, let's do it. So then he came and did So Good to You.
Ah, okay.
And also I got Nat Adderley Jr. to do strings and horn arrangements.
Oh.
On top of that,
And you said it's Philip Hamilton
Jr.
is doing the Philip Hamilton Jr. is doing the guitar, the strumming,
the guitar, and he wrote music. He wrote he wrote the foundation of it.
Yeah, because his that guitar is kind of like Earl Cluish, George Benson kind of. It's
got this Brazilian flavor to it.
But the strings, and then whoever's doing the horn section, the wind section, and then give it up to your radio.
Man. It's just
it's so
sexy little tune.
It's so Washington D.C. choir 96.3 FM WHUR.
And
the sound of the city.
And it was giving me this Brazilian vibe. I knew this bass player from Brazil that worked with all, I did gigs with him, Sergio Brandao. So he's not here anymore. He passed around the pandemic or something. But amazing bass player, but he was Brazilian. And he played with Djavan and all these big stars in Brazil. And then he was back and forth here working with a bunch of artists. So I called Sergio. I said, Sergio, man, would you come? He came and played, and he brought that flavor in the bass, that added to it. And of course, I got Nat playing Fender Rhodes and piano and stuff.
It's beautiful.
Percussionists that worked with Miles Davis and Lauryn Hill. My old friend Rudy Bird, he came out and he put percussion on it,
And you just, what motive? But now in the I guess selections, where was this one? Was this one of the first of the bunch? And what was your you may not remember your process, but was it that you just had it on your heart to record? I mean, put these songs together, or were you?
Well, my thought was, when I got offered to do this, it was a small label.
Oh, okay. So there was.
So what I had done was Steve Kroon, the percussionist from Luther, found this guy and did his album with this guy. But Steve called me and said, hey man, I need you to produce. So I worked with Steve and we produced this record for Steve. At the end of it, the guy turned around to me, he says, hey man, did you ever think about doing something on yourself? I said, not really, but that's an idea, So my thought was, okay, as a musician, I'm known as a drummer, but I didn't want to put together like this drum record, a musician's record. I didn't want to, oh yeah, he's doing this solo and doing all this fancy. I wanted to do, a Quincy record. I wanted to do a record where it's music, grooves,
where you can show
melodies and stuff like that. So, I had, I was writing a lot. Of course, I had already had a couple things on Luther by then, Mavis Staples. We had produced some stuff on Shaka and some other people, at Motown, some younger artists and stuff. So, I had a lot of music around. So I started, grabbing stuff that I had. And the stuff that I took to Nick Ashford was a couple tracks that I had written at home. And I said, Nick, would you write with me? you know, and he had me come to his house, you know. He sat me, you know, he had his own little office in there, and we sat there and he listened to it. He said, "Man, I really like it, Ivan." He says, "You know, it's so funny. I don't write with nobody but Valerie." You know, his Nick voice, you know, write with Valerie.
Yeah.
That's who I write with. You know, that's you know. He said, "So this is going to be fun." And so I left him the tracks. I went away, and him and Valerie went up in their studio and sent me back demos of these 2 songs,
which is
All We Need Is Love and Primal Instinct.
Primal Instinct, yes, which is a red light zone.
Yeah.
Sensual, because I listened to it all the way, and
Yeah.
from midway on to the end.
Yeah.
NSFW, not safe for work. Valerie surprised me. She was like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, I'm feeling this."
When I first got that back, I sat in the car with Nat and played it, and he said, "Oh no, she didn't." we was in there fainting. Oh, she said, and talking about, "Oh no." I was like, "Oh."
Yes,
She was out.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's primal instincts.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. We all have it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So how, and I have to. How was it working with Nick, and all I know is Nick and Val, they are legends too.
Oh,
they're super duper, prominent, undeniable, unmatchable. There's no one like them.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, and you knew him, so yeah.
So they hired me in 1984 in the fall.
Wow.
I was doing some jingles, and I show up at this jingle. It might have been like a Mercedes Benz or something. And I get to the studio, and Ray Chew is their musical director. He's the arranger on this jingle. And he and I had common people we knew, even from my childhood. My oldest son's mother and Ray went to high school together. So when we were dating, she used to always tell me about this guy. "Oh, there's this guy, he's so awesome. His name is Ray Chew. He's my friend at school and blah, blah, blah. And he's doing these records, and I'm reading records and reading his name like, wait a minute, I'm in high school, he's in high school. How's he doing this?" So we knew of each other. She would tell him about her boyfriend, the drummer.
Okay.
So, and then we knew other people as well in the industry. So I get there and we hit it off. At the time, Yogi Horton.
I remember that name.
Yes, Yogi, amazing drummer, and a mentor for me. He was turning me on to work in New York. So Yogi was doing Ashford and Simpson and Luther Vandross.
Okay.
He was doing both gigs. Well, that was getting under Nick and Val's skin a little bit. They wanted their own drummer because Luther was getting busy. Luther was working, so they like, and Tinker Barfield, Alpha Anderson's husband.
From Chic.
From Chic.
Okay.
Her husband, he was doing the same thing. He was doing Ashford and Simpson and Luther. So
he was a drummer too?
No, bass player.
Oh, he was a bass player. Okay.
Right, he's a bass player. So the two of them were hopping, double dipping in both gigs. And Nick and Val, they were getting ready to get busy, and it was like, okay, we need our own guy. So I meet Ray Chew in the studio after I did the session. About 2 weeks or so later, my phone rings, hey, this is Ashford and Simpson's office. Are you available for blah, 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 and come do this rehearsal? I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. I went and did the rehearsal. I did the first gig. Next thing I know, I'm in the band.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Ray Chew. Was it Ray Chew?
Ray Chew.
Yeah, thank you, Ray Chew.
Absolutely.
What did Ray Chew play?
Oh, he's a pianist. You don't know who Ray Chew is?
I know him. I just couldn't think right off the top of my head what he plays. I just know.
Piano. He's a pianist.
I know he's Apollo.
Yeah, right. He did Ray Chew and the Crew, but he produces. He just the Macy's Christmas Parade.
Yeah, he does all the big things. Yeah, all the Whitney. I think he was doing a lot of Whitney stuff too.
That was Ricky Minor.
Okay.
So Ricky is the Ray Chew of the West Coast.
Okay, and Ray Chew is of the East Coast.
He's New York, yeah.
He's the go-to man when you want to produce your big productions.
That's right. Yeah. He did the 4th of July this year in New York. He produced all of that music and the fireworks show.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he produced all that. Ray is phenomenal. Another one that I learned so much from. Mm-hmm. Just a close brother, man. Just ridiculous,
Yeah.
So
you started. You get the gig.
84. Yeah, I get the gig, and the first rehearsal, Francisco Centeno was the bass player, so they replaced Tinker and Yogi with me and Francisco. Francisco had been in the band before. Francisco was Nick and Val's original bass player. When they started performing, it was Francisco Centeno, Nat Adderley Jr. was their musical director, and Buddy Williams was the drummer.
You mean back in the 80s?
1970s.
In the 70s?
70s.
Well, so Nat Adderley was doing this for a while.
Yeah, right.
So all those albums that we were listening to and growing up to, Go ahead.
So we do it. We get to this first rehearsal, and he said, "Yeah, we got this new song coming out," and I get the music, and boom, 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 bubble, solid. Solid as a rock. First time I heard it, I played it in the rehearsal. Solid as a rock.
Wow.
And that thing went through the roof.
Yeah, that was.
So we toured.
They was no joke. They said, "Look, this is how you do it."
Mm-hmm.
And
they kept me close for all of that. We did Live Aid, and that's a funny story too, because that was like, hey, we got this gig in Philly. I didn't see no ads or anything about Live Aid. I said, okay, we got this gig in Philly. We pull up to this JFK Stadium. I was like, what the heck is this? Oh, this is Live Aid. You didn't know about this? No, I didn't know nothing about it.
So that was your first time in front of a huge, was that?
That big, yeah. It was 100,000, 90,000 people there.
Oh, wow. I know that was a shock.
I went and did my job, but what was cool is, you walk around backstage, I met Tina Turner.
All the celebrities back there.
All the divas back there. All the stars, they were all back there, and, the musician hang was great. I knew a lot of the musicians in different bands and stuff. But you had top tier stars there. So Live Aid was amazing, and I walked into that not knowing what I was walking into. I had no idea until I got off the bus in Philly and went, what's going on?
So those are magic. Those are memories.
Yeah.
And those moments, that keep you going.
Yeah. So now, like I talked about Yogi Horton, he was in Luther's band, and he passed away. He passed away in the middle of the Give Me the Reason tour.
Mm-hmm.
So Nat, I get to this call, hey, after the funeral and everything, they had been auditioning drummers. And he says, look, man, I haven't found the right guy yet. He says, there's some great drummers that have been coming in, but I need a particular thing. He says, I got to hear one more guy. If that don't work out, I want you to come and meet me at my house and pick up the music.
And just pick up the music, okay?
Pick up the music. So
they trying to show respect to Ashford and them, not take you.
Well, no. Matt said, Nick and Val are gonna kick my ass.
So
I steal another musician from them. He been stealing musicians from them for a couple of years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so he was like, he told me on the phone, he said, I've been trying not to call you.
See?
I've been trying not to call you. But
all the time he wanted you.
Certain people are saying my name to him.
Mm-hmm.
Buddy Williams, Tinker Barfield. People are saying my name to him, and he's going, well, let me try another guy, and he's auditioning. Friends of mine, they killing drummers. They looking for a certain style.
Yeah.
And I guess I played a close style to what Yogi played. So
and Yogi probably spoke highly of you.
Oh, that was
you.
Yogi would call me on the phone. He was in Jersey. He called me and hey man, I'm getting ready to leave town. I need you to cover these gigs for me. He would call me and give me his work.
Hey.
And turn me on to stuff. So no,
he was family.
He watched me play Ashford and Simpson's gig. I'm his replacement. He watched me, and after the show, we hung out. He was like, nice, man, nice. He gave me love. So, we were starting this wonderful bond, and the next thing you know, he was gone.
When I put all this together,
I got a limited amount of time
with the hand
with him,
movement
but it was special. The time I had from him.
All you were basically doing was just helping this tempo along that I established.
And the experience, the mentorship. Cherish those times, and the same with Nick. Well, Nick didn't. I guess Nick passed much later.
Oh yeah.
Than that.
Yeah, Nick was like what 2012.
Okay.
Yogi passed in '87.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good little.
So that was 1987. So.
Now you continued with Nick and Val for how much longer?
Well, what happened was, 85, 86, we did all of that Solid as a Rock tour.
Okay.
It was supposed to be one tour. It extended and it went on, and then they kind of fizzled out and stopped working. They weren't working so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were trying to write and do some other stuff. And right at that moment was when all of this happened with Yogi.
Yeah.
And Nat calls me.
Right. And then you took off.
That was the summer. And what was crazy too is I knew Nick and Val wasn't going to work. So I had taken a job with Jonathan Butler.
Yeah, that's the guitarist
from South Africa.
Yeah.
So I got this call, I took the gig, and then Nat gets me and he says, look, man, we going right out, So I did one rehearsal and jumped on a plane with Luther.
Okay.
So I had to call Valerie and say, Val, Nat called me and blah, blah, blah. She was like, She was not thrilled, but she understood,
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to call Jonathan's management.
Oh, wow.
And do the same. So I had two organizations. I had to kind of say, hey, I can't do it. And then I went up to Nat's house. I picked up the music that night, and he says, come in, man, listen. He had a piano in his bedroom, like right by the bed. And he's opened up, never too much. And he said, just kind of play, I said, okay, just like that, with the floor and my knees. And I played a couple measures. He said, okay, yeah, I see you at rehearsal tomorrow.
Okay.
I showed up at rehearsal. We played through the tunes. The next day, I get on the plane and go to California. We go do the Rose Bowl. 90,000 people, my first show at Luther. And I had met Luther before when I was with Ashford and Simpson, but like, oh, this is Luther, this is I. Oh, nice. That was it. This time I'm working for him, and they're calling, okay, 5 minutes to showtime. Luther comes out and somebody says, oh yeah, hey Luther, this is the new drummer.
Okay.
How you doing? Okay, we go out and do it. We do the show, and the closing song, I'll never forget, was House Is Not a Home. We closed it. It was like one of those big super fests, so everybody did 45, 50 minutes or whatever, and we get to the end of House Is Not a Home, and Luther's singing, and he turns around and he goes,
yeah.
He looks right at me and does that. I was like, oh, I guess I got the job.
Yeah. Well, speaking of those 45-minute sets, what was with Ashford and Nick, with Ashford and Simpson? What was, I guess, one or two of your favorite songs that you performed live with them?
Oh man. Oh God!
Because I know so many songs. That's why I said one or two. And did they go back in time when they did their shows?
Of course, they always did those big hits that they wrote in Motown.
Okay.
So, Ain't No Mountain, always had to do that. Heaven must have sent you from above. So they would do a whole section of all of those major hits that they wrote back at Motown, and then they would do the stuff from their records. So Street Corner,
on in this street.
Right.
I gotta add all that stuff to my playlist.
Nobody Knows was one of my favorites. Nobody knows the inside.
Okay.
They had a bunch of tunes.
So Nobody Knows.
Send It.
Okay.
That was always fun. So there was a lot of great music that they wrote that it was just a joy to play. I mean, you just had a good time doing it.
And they were like Luther, weren't they? They were like.
Oh yeah.
Flawless on their performances too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they from that old school. It's like
I've been blessed.
You were blessed to be around, yeah.
From Eartha.
Diamond Cut. From Eartha.
She was.
Please tell me about Eartha. Please, I want to know what your favorite songs are playing with her. I know Santa Baby is mine, but I mean.
Yeah. I mean, she had eclectic stuff. She did a lot of Torch songs. Sacy Bone.
Sacy Bone.
Yeah.
I have to look that up.
Oh yeah. Sacy Bone. It was a big hit. Whatever will be, will be.
Oh yeah.
Sacy Bone, say bone, say bone. And she would have the band, she'd make us sing that. Say bone, say bone. Say bone, say bone. And she would do her thing, and so she was an actress. She was
was she purr?
She was a major dancer.
Yeah. See, I think Catherine Dunham. Yep.
Yes. So she was another one of them. She was an international star.
She was a triple threat. She's a superstar.
Yes. And she back in the 60s, she spoke out politically.
Yeah.
That got her blacklisted. She moved out of the country. And when she came back in the 80s, she did Timbuktu. That brought her back.
I remember that.
Right.
I remember that was huge.
Right. So right after Timbuktu, I get hired. she's finished with that, and she's doing her own thing.
Her own show, her own performance.
Right. So a good percussionist friend of mine called me Bradley Simmons and said, "Hey man, Eartha's looking for a drummer." And I ended up in the band. I worked for her right up into Ashford and Simpson. So 3-4 years, and then next thing I know, I'm with Nick and Val.
Wow.
So the interesting about Bradley Simmons is we knew each other from the theater.